Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Echale Podcast. My name is Jose Quintero, and today's episode is all about money. 2024 is right around the corner, and I brought somebody that's already been in the podcast in the past, but I'm very excited to have con nosotros Morris. Once again, ¿cómo andas, hermano?
Oh, how you doing, Jose? Doing well so far. It's been pretty nice seeing how the markets are reacting and seeing how the economy is evolving now that this whole COVID stuff is over. So it's pretty fun to be back, and actually, it's great to see you again after the wedding. I hope you had fun.
I did have fun. So Morris recently got married, que su esposa is right here with us, you know. She's like, hey, supporting him. Yeah, no. But I really wanted to bring you on because you are one of the most knowledgeable people I know on finance. Y es porque somos igualitos. Te encanta el dinero, but you actually go above and beyond and research every single company. And I wish I was a little bit more. No, not a little bit, a lot more like you. And cada vez que tengo una pregunta, tengo una duda, or I'm like, hey, I need help with something of financial advice, I always reach out to Morris, and he always tells me I'm not a financial advisor, to take it with a grain of salt. Sure. But I still feel like you have a lot of knowledge to provide to all our listeners. So if you're listening to this, make sure you pay attention because 2024, we want you to be rich. So, Morris, empecemos. 2024 is right around the corner. What do you recommend people to start doing? Let's go ahead and take it back to the start. See, if somebody is 18 years old, straight out of college, or straight out of high school, not college. If you're 18 out of college, then you probably know a lot more than us.
Very quick. You got through it pretty fast.
Yeah, but so financial basics for people.
Yeah, so, one thing, like I say, like I'm not a financial advisor, I cannot give you personal financial advice, and I am not a CPA, or I don't have any official training in how to tell people how to do investing. So this is mostly your decision, and you can take all my opinions, and like I tell everybody, I could be wrong, and things could be so much different a year from now than what I...
But he's mostly right, y'all.
But it turns out that we are... And at least the signs that we're seeing, at least the economy is throwing all those signs, that 2024 is going to be a year of a lot of upheaval, a lot of change in the economy. Mostly because we're seeing not only the government having the highest debt it has ever had, and then also personal debt has been the highest it's ever been. So both the American government and the American people have never spent this much money and be in debt this much ever in the history of the world. So the chances are that a recession in 2024 coming, it's pretty not set in stone, but it's coming to be almost 100% reality.
I was going to say, based on what you read y todo lo que ves, would you say that we are 75% chance of a recession, 45%, 100% chance of a recession?
I think we are above 75, but not yet 100. Yeah.
Wow.
We're getting to that point at the moment. Yeah.
So, okay, when I think of a recession, and for anybody listening to this, I only remember the 2008 recession vaguely. And I say vaguely because I graduated high school 2009. So 2008, it started-ish, right? But I was in college, so I didn't really... So then I went to college 2009, right? Later on in the fall. So I didn't really get to see my parents financially struggle. But once I graduated college, it was like we were experiencing dark times. Your mom, I just knew my dad wasn't working anymore. I just didn't know why. I didn't know that they were struggling financially, and that's why my mom decided to work. Like, she started working at the 99-cent store. And to me, it was like, oh, okay, my mom wants to trabajar, quiere trabajar, qué bueno. Mi papá va a descansar un ratito mientras mi mamá trabaja. I didn't know the whole backstory. I didn't know, okay, his company, they laid him off, then the company went bankrupt, and then she had to step into the workforce to provide, to pay the mortgage. And, okay, are we seeing something similar to that?
Yeah, at the moment, there's a lot of discourse, of course, between the people that keep saying it's not going to be like 2008, like it's going to be less of an issue when it comes to real estate, less of an issue when it comes to jobs, because, as we currently are, real estate hasn't dropped as much, and job are still pretty high. People still have jobs. And there hasn't been a huge unemployment like it was 2008. But then there's another group of people on the other aisle, which are saying, well, it's not now, but it's gonna become that. And we are starting to see at least a trend where job unemployment, at least the numbers of people being unemployed, is going up. Then the number of companies that are laying off employees is going up. And the number of people that are having at least 2-3 jobs in order to sustain their families is going up. So all these indicators are basically leading indicators of what could happen. And like I said, it's not 100% sure. There's a possibility that miraculously, by the grace of God, we might see a soft landing. The Federal Reserve, achieves deflation and achieves a job market that is stable and everything is back to normal as usual. Yields come down and people are able to borrow money at 3-4% again.
Okay, so obviously we're in a high interest rate environment right now. The cost of goods is skyrocketing. It's ridiculously high. And I was listening to the news and somebody in their financial report was saying, like, even though we're seeing these high interest rates, when they come down, don't expect prices of these goods and services to come down as well. So they're going to continue to stay up. And I'm going to ask you for advice on that, porque a lot of people who are listening to this podcast are probably like myself, right? Who are like, oh my God, I wish I made more money. I wish I could afford a house. Yeah. I was literally in Thanksgiving talking to my cousins and they bought their house 2005, on a one income type of stuff. And I was just like, well, you guys had it easier. And he's all like, well, I bought it with 2 mortgage loans, right? Yeah. So it was different times. And I don't know, me está diciendo, look, as time progresses, your income should also increase. Sure. Yeah. So if we stay stuck in comparing, pues antes había esto, antes había el otro, ustedes la tuvieron más fácil, you guys had it easier, we're never going to tackle the problem.
The root, yeah.
So where can we start tackling the problem?
Well, the main thing is at home. One thing that we can do as consumers, because basically this whole system is all about consumerism. The less we consume, the less businesses make, the less businesses will be forced to raise prices, and the less companies will be willing to raise prices. So it's all based on supply and demand. Currently, we're seeing that demand is still pretty high for the supply that we have at the moment. It's come down a lot from 2022, 2021.
Okay.
But it's still pretty high, and that's still what's leading prices to go up. Like if you see, and I was just reading this, that Chipotle is raising prices and McDonald's is raising prices on the food, and that is because still people are still buying things that is leading to businesses seeing that, okay, people still have money to spend. Yeah. And that is leading to us, we can raise our prices, people will pay them. So what we want to do in the home, starting from the home, is building a budget, is creating yourself a way to budget your money so you don't spend more than what you're making. You want to make sure that you're living under your means, so that when this recession and these issues actually does happen, you are already set up, your system, your house, and everything is already according to plan. You're just spending what you need to spend, and you're not overspending on from money that you may not have.
Okay, so I like doing real world examples, and I'm going to just be transparent and kind of have this as a financial session, because yes. I think more than anything, we were going to talk about this podcast, one thing, and right now I really want us to focus on preparing for a recession or for preparing for a possible recession. So just using real world examples. All right, if I have, let's say, $2,000 in credit card debt, which I don't. Okay, I'm just going to use my examples. I have $1,000 in credit card debt. Yeah. I have, let's 25 in car debt, and I have $50K in student loan. All right. And I'm assuming some people are in that same boat, right?
Yeah, pretty similar.
Student loan, car, and then credit card. I don't have a mortgage. I don't pay rent because I live in my parents' house. My parents live in Mexico. They come and go. That is a privilege that I have. And I know people probably add, let's say, 1.5K in rent a month.
Basically.
Okay. Where it's 2024, it's January. What do you suggest this hypothetical person, or AKA me, do?
Yeah. Well, one thing, so we're talking about building a budget, and that's one thing that we can do. And then the next thing, once you have your budget set up, you got to make sure you have some money left over that you can use to tackle that problem of debt. So when it comes to debt, you want to get rid of as much as possible prior to an economic downturn. And like in your example, if you have $1,000 in credit card debt, and you have built a budget that at least at the end of the month, let's say you are able to save $500, that you are just don't have it there, that you figured out, okay, if I cut this streaming service, if I cut this outings and going to restaurants, if I cut this subscription to this kind of program, and I have $500 at the end, those $500 can go into that $1,000 credit card debt. Because that, by looking at the numbers, that will be the one with the highest interest rate.
Yes.
Credit cards, at least at the moment, because of the high interest environment that we're living in, are between 20 to 25 in interest rates. And they might come down now that interest rates are starting to fall a little bit. But they're still going to be the highest expense in all of your debt.
Let's talk about that. It's 20% monthly interest rates or AP?
It's APY.
So it's yearly.
The year,
okay, because I was gonna say, so if I have $100, it's gonna charge me $20 a month. No.
Close, but it's not like it doesn't work that way. But let's say you have 20% throughout all of the year. So they work in is APR, not APY. So it's variable every single day. So let's say you divide the 20% divided by 365 days. Every day, that times in the total amount of the debt that you have is what goes up every day. So they do it on a daily basis. It's a compounded interest that gets built on every day.
So today you have 100, tomorrow you have 120 cents,
basically
145 cents.
Yeah. So
my
it goes
gosh.
up little by little by little, and that is what creeps into people's pockets, because that is at least a number that came out. Banks right now are making more money in interest repayment than they're making on the actual businesses that they have, from loaning, from buying or investing. They make more money on the interest on their credit cards every single day than they make on their other actual ventures. They're slowly getting our pocket out.
I know. And we're over here just in our savings account with 0.01%. Like if you have, I'm sorry, I'm going to blast them out. Wells Fargo, Citibank, Chase, they're offering these low, we've already explained it in other podcast episodes, but they're offering this very low interest rate on your savings account. Open up a high yield savings account. It's better. You're not going to get the 20-30% return that the banks are getting, but you're going to get something more.
It's going to be, a little, at least change that you can use to, accommodate your expenses and maybe pay loans at the end of that year. Let's say you get a 10%, not 10%, but 5% high yield savings account. There are some out there that are still giving you 5%, but the majority are between 4 to 5.
Yes.
So let's say you put 100 or let's say 1,000. If you have 1,000 laying around, let's see, under the mattress somewhere in like a safe in your house that is not moving, it's just chilling there in cash. You grab the cash, you put it in a high yield savings account in a reputable location. Don't just go into any bank that is, a weird name, like let's say, and this happened, SBB or Silicon Valley Bank. That it's, at least banks that you've known for years. It's, say, American Express. Their Chase offers a high yield account, but it's not as big as Amex or the one that we have is another one, Ally. So if you have all these that are at least paying you 4%, let's say 1,000 at the end of the year, that's around $40 that you can use to pay down loans.
I was
pay down debt.
Literally, one of my friends was telling me about Wealthfront.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that
okay,
one.
yeah. It's like, and it says right here, because he sent me like the code. It says earn 5.5% APY with Wealthfront, and then earn an extra 0.5 boost when you sign up. So it's like at 6%. You're just like, wait, what?
And you want to know how they do it. And I actually kind of like saw a little bit of how they work. And what they do is, since they're in all online, like they save a lot of they don't spend too much money.
Okay.
So a lot of their profits and income that they don't have to spend on physical locations and having all these services, they give it to you as a stipend in your what is going to be a high yield account. But what they also do behind the door is that your money that you give to them, they invest in treasuries, and those treasuries are paying between 5 to 6%, depending on which ones you're in.
Got it.
Especially if it's right now a 2-year or a 6 months, they're paying around 4.89 to 5. Okay. So it's been fluctuating the last few months, but it's been staying pretty high. So what they do is they make that money. They also invest in other venues, and with that extra income, they are able to pay the 5%.
All right, I have credit card debt. What if I'm still like, hey, I am spread thin. Like, literal, pago mi carro, pago mi rent, pago mis credit cards. I'm a single mom. I'm literally, like, feeding my child. Like, I don't have an extra dollar to spare.
Yeah, those are very hard.
And very real.
Yeah, it happens to everybody.
Cuando te sientes que, hey, ¿de dónde saco $1 para guardar? ¿De dónde lo puedo sacar?
Where can you get those? Where can you get that cash? And there are many ways you could find cash at lower interest rates. Now, it all depends on your credit score, because all these are basically loans on your credit. So if you have really good credit score and you have let's say a credit card that gives you a high limit, and I don't recommend this unless you are able to figure out your finances and stuff like that. You can take a 0% loan from one of these credit cards that you have, because sometimes they give you, let's say they send it to me all the time. It's we'll give you a 0% loan as long as you pay an upfront 3%, which is way less than what they charge if you take it out now, which is 20%. Yeah. So we'll charge you 3% for a cash out from your credit card balance, and it's gonna be 0. So you can start paying it from the moment you have it. So what I would do is, with that money, I would pay any high yield loan that you have. Let's say you take out $20,000 from one credit card at 0% interest to pay a loan, to pay a credit card that is giving you 20% right now. So at least you can figure out how to pay that high interest credit card first, and then slowly pay this one that is at 0% because you paid the initial 3%. But you have a time limit. Yeah. They give you a special of around half a year and a half, like 12 to 18 months to pay it off. So that's short term. The other way that you can do it, and this is basically what's going to fix most of your problems, is find out how to start a business. That is it's not going to be easy, but will be the one that it'll affect you the less in the long run. And it's going to be the one that is going to get you out of the rut or whatever issue that you have with your income. Building a second stream of income, building a business will solve a lot of the problems that you have in case you get laid off, in case you, let's say, they cut your hours, or in case, you have to find money in another way. But building that second stream of income is very important prior to a recession. I
would also add trying to see if you can. I know some people are like, all right, well, I'm going to get a second job because that's a possible way. If you want to be an independent contractor, 8K Uber driver, Uber driver, Lyft driver, Uber Eats, Postmates, those are all independent contractors where you could technically be your own LLC, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm over here like, right? One thing that I just recently did, hopefully it goes through by the time this podcast episode airs, but I asked for a raise.
That's a good one too.
I asked for a raise, and it's so because I'm always advocating for other people to get raises and whatnot, and I finally advocated for myself, and hopefully by the time I could give you guys news, like that I got, and I asked for a 20% increase.
Oh, that's not bad. I mean,
well,
don't ever sell yourself short. That's one thing. You believe in yourself and you know your skills and you know what you bring to the table. You can sell that to your employer, and the employer is gonna know.
Yeah.
If you're worth it, they'll give it to you. So
yes.
I would always say advocate for yourself no matter what.
Definitely. Okay, so we got done with credit cards. We talked about how to make more money, whether it be increasing your salary, whether it be asking for a raise, getting a second job, starting a business. What can we continue to do to prepare for a recession?
Well, let's say you're at least now have a budget, you're building your savings up, and you're paying down your debt. The next thing to prepare, basically what I would do, and this is what I've been doing with my girlie, with my wifey, I shouldn't say girlie, but we are investing in treasuries and bonds.
What is that? I tried to have a conversation with Eddie. We had a whole masterclass on finances, Finance 101. You guys can go ahead and check them out. But treasuries and bonds were so unknown to us.
Sure. Yeah.
I invest in an ETF for, I think it's treasuries or something, because I was like, I don't know, so I'd rather just get a piece of everything.
Yeah. No, the thing is with treasuries, unlike stocks and the stock market, treasuries are tied to the debt of a business. So I wouldn't, at least at the moment, the way the current economic situation is and the climate that we're living in, I would not invest in private equity or private bonds from private companies. But what I do invest in is the U.S. debt. The U.S., and by far for generations, U.S. bonds or U.S. treasuries that come straight from the Federal Reserve or the Treasury are the safest form of investment because it all relies on the stability of the U.S. economy.
I'm still confused. So a treasury bond I'm a visual learner, so if you're listening to us on on the podcast or viewing us on YouTube, all right. So you have this is a treasury bond.
Yeah. So let's say the government comes in and says, okay, we need to raise $1 million.
And you literally are it's like a crowdfunding.
We are lending to the government. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, the government at least once a week. This happens every week.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Every week they come out and say, okay, for this week we're gonna issue this many bonds. Let's say, by an example, because they do by the billions. But by example, let's say we're gonna go to 1 million. This year, this week, the U.S. government needs to raise $1 million in bonds. So what they do is they come to the market and they say, okay, we're offering these IOUs to you, the general public, if you want to buy down our debt or buy down any of the government's backing debt. So what happens is institutions come. Is the bigger players are the institutions, like big investing firms, banks, and investing portfolios like Bridgewater Associates, Bank of America, Chase, BlackRock. All these people are like, okay, we want to buy bonds from the government. So they come to the government. The government says, okay, we have $1 million to sell. The majority of that $1 million is going to be sold to the firms because they're the ones that are going to be having the cash ready.
Yes.
The rest, once the firms have gotten their pie, then they come to if there's anything left, they're going to come to the general public. And that's when the treasury auctions happen. And most likely, if you know about treasuries, you want to invest it in a secure way. So you got to open yourself a brokerage account with the government.
So it's not like opening up a Robinhood, American Trade. So it's its own entity.
It's its own entity, it's its own system, and the way to go to it is the Treasury direct.gov. So if you put that into your browser, Treasury direct.gov, because it's a government website. You create your account, you set up your bank connection with the account, and then every single week you have the opportunity to buy bonds. Now that bond, since it's a loan that you're giving to the government also pays you an interest on that loan. Currently, and this is the highest interest we've had in bonds in over 20 years.
Okay.
So right now, interest rates for a 6-month bond, meaning that you have to buy this bond and you got to hold it for 6 months. Once the 6 months is over, the United States government gives you the money. So a 6-month bond, let's say you're buying $1,000 of that bond, you're going to pay only $993 around that amount.
Okay.
In those 6 months, you're going to be making that 4.5%. And at the end of it, they'll give you the full $1,000. You only pay $997 for it.
Okay.
But at the end of the 6 months, the period that the bond lasts, they'll give you the full amount. And that includes the interest for you loaning to the government. So you only pay a smaller price for it. At the end of the day, they give you the total amount, and that extra is the interest rate that they'll give you that you loan the money for.
So not only are you giving them less than they are asking for, you get that full amount back plus the interest at the end of whatever the term is. It's similar to like a CD.
It's like a CD.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I say investing on it, it's because you actually have to go and put your money in and do it yourself. But you can also do it through a CD, but of course with way less interest. So investing is when you do it on your own. CD is when you let the banks do it for you.
And treasury is when you let the government do it for you.
Yeah, basically.
Got you. All right. So we talked about, and we're rushing through it because I want to get into more like what can people do and expect in a recession. But we're going to go ahead and take a small little break. Yes. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and talk about in the stock market and then also business and then how you transformed your whole family around thanks to your investments. When we come back, y'all.
Thank you.
All right, we are back with Morris talking about finances, talking about preparing for a recession. We had just literally discussed what treasuries are, which now I know what they are.
It's a hard concept in the beginning. You have to you have to figure out, you pay less, but you get a lot more at the end.
Okay, so 2024, possible recession. We've already discussed as to why, but I want to know the stock market. Yeah. Should we be investing in the stock market? People are like, should I just take the money and run with it at this point if it's going to be a recession?
True. Yeah. In at least what happens in recessions, everything will have an impact on prices. Recessions always tend to lead the stock market lower, real estate prices lower, businesses may have to cut expenses, leading to more layoffs. So people get fearful in a recession, so they try to get their money out. Now, that doesn't mean you have to sell and get rid of all your investments and go 100% cash and just wait it out until the end of the recession, because no one knows what might happen. The easiest and the most secure way in investing is just make sure that your investments are in a secure ETF or a secure bond investment or a secure form of a secure company that will weather out those recessions. Gotcha. So what I am doing, and this is all something that I do, you don't have to do it. Like I said, I could be wrong and everything. I am putting a lot of my 401k in 3 areas. One is in long-term treasury bonds. So I'm buying bonds, ETFs or mutual funds in my 401k. I am buying the S&P 500 because no matter what, you're still the companies might suffer. They will most likely suffer during a recession. But you don't want to just sell out everything just because.
401ks, by the way, just real quick, and sorry to interrupt. Your 401k,
right. I did not even mention
that. No. Like usually your job offers a 401k, but I want to kind of explore that a little bit. But you can tell your 401k what to do. Yeah. Or I just automatically assume that the company that you're like the actual company you work for, they tell you like, all right, this is what it's invested in, and
kinda. So in the beginning, when you create your 401k, because if like for all the viewers, if you're not understanding or you don't know what a 401k is, it's a retirement plan that is provided and sponsored by your employer. Mm-hmm. So your employer kind of has to have that program in place before you get employed for you to be able to qualify for it. So it's basically an IRA. Yeah, but provided by your employer.
Got you.
Now, depending on the employer, they give you a match. And what a match is let's say if you put $5,000 every month, we'll match that $5,000 up to the $5,000. So in total, you get double, $10,000.
That's if it matches 100%, because mine doesn't. Mine matches like 20%.
Yeah, so if you, let's say, depending on which company and what the company does, they'll say, okay, we'll match up to, for in my case, it's only 10%.
Oh, okay.
So it's even less.
Damn.
But you get so
I was like, well, it's because when I used to work at university, because I worked at Cal State San Bernardino, like they had really great benefits, and it was like 100% match, and I didn't take advantage because I wasn't financially literate enough.
True, yeah, and it's free money.
Yeah,
it's basically money that the company gives you just for putting it in your retirement.
Yeah.
So it pays to be putting money in a 401k that offers a match, because it's basically giving you free money to just protect your future.
Yeah.
So what happens is, let's say a company, let's say in my case, that has 10% match, and they're going to end it, by the way. They're not going to keep doing that in 2024, but
what?
I cannot talk about it too much.
Oh, your company?
My company.
Oh, okay. I was like, my company too? Espérame.
No, my employer, they're going to end it, and you most likely will hear about it because it's becoming a big thing, and a big topic, and some people already on YouTube are making videos of it, and how if this works and it becomes like a thing, it could affect the stock market in the long run.
Okay.
But what happens is, currently, at least for the time being, that 10% gets matched, and it goes into as a funding to the 401k. Now, the funding is just cash that you have in your 401k, so you have to decide where to put it. In the beginning, when you create your 401k account, they'd say they put you by default in a category. Let's say if you are most likely going to retire in your 60s, which is everybody retires, majority retires in their 60s. They're going to put you in the year of your retirement. So let's say they put you in a fund that says, okay, since you're 30 and you're going to retire, let's say in 2040, by that time you'll be like in your 60s. No, actually 2050.
Yeah.
That's your 60s. So if you're 30, you come into the company, you open your 401k, most likely you'll retire around 2055. So they'll put you in the retirement of 2055. And what happens is, in that mutual fund retirement up to 2055 is an active investing. So every year they put a certain amount in bonds and a certain amount in stocks. And as the years go by, they increase the bond and they lower the stocks, because they want you, as you get older, to be less exposed to risk. That way, once you get to your 60s, it's 90% bonds and 10% stocks. That way you have, more secure income, because everybody invests in bonds gets money every month, and you still have your investments that you've been buying since you were 30, but you're buying less and less and less every year. So that's what, at least in my company, that's what they do in that mutual fund. But what I do, I switch that. I don't want to be retired in 2025. 2055. So I switch it to bonds, and I switch it to the S&P 500, and I switch it to
So you can tell like allocations, like 20% here, 30%. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say you have right now you're by default in the 2055 retirement mutual fund. In the future, you don't want to be there, so you switch by the next month, because you cannot do it real time. You do it every single time they pay you, it goes into your 401k. So you switch your electments. That's what they call it. You electing to switch your where your money is gonna go into. So in my case, I switched it to the S&P 500 mutual fund, the long-term bonds mutual fund, the medium-term bonds mutual fund, the tech mutual fund, which is the NASDAQ, and the dividend mutual fund, which is like the high dividend ETF.
Yeah. Well, he just gave you everything that he's investing in his 401k, so just mimic it.
Yeah, so in a 401k, you want to kind of like limit your risk, because it's your retirement. You don't want to play with that money too much. So majority of it, I am putting it in bonds, which are more secure than stocks, because that's the government debt.
Yeah.
I'm putting it in U.S. bonds only. I'm not putting it in private bonds or private equity from private companies, because a company can go down, and what happens to your bond? The bond just goes poof.
Yeah.
So if you at least put it in the U.S. economy, in the U.S. Treasury, the bond is going to remain there as long as the United States exists and is able to honor its debt.
we're talking about like the United States, we're talking about money, and we're talking about 2024 possible recession. But one thing that I also want to keep into account before we continue on is it's also an election year.
Yeah.
And so many people, and I'm glad I have you here because you started investing and learning about money how long ago?
I think when Trump became president.
I was gonna say, okay, so Trump. So
I think it was maybe the end to his first term, beginning of his second term.
Okay,
no,
so
did he go second term? No, he went first term, right?
First term.
So yeah, the beginning of his first term. Yeah.
That's when you started like learning more about money and started like, hey, I need to do something. So let's talk about Trump versus Biden.
Yeah.
Obviously, two different presidents, two different parties, two different economies.
Sure.
Would you say that Biden's economy is a cause of
what
Trump
did? Yeah, I would say.
Or is Biden fucking up?
No, I would say both of them, in a way, had the short end of the stick because of what happened in 2019, which is COVID. So if COVID would not have happened, the economy would not have had that huge of a recession, at least right after what happened.
Yeah. Because we weren't expecting what 2019 was a recession.
It was supposed to be, yeah.
Oh, it was supposed to be a recession?
That's when it was supposed to start, yeah. At least we're already seeing the Federal Reserve actually had raised rates 2017, 2018.
I did not know. Well, see, la ignorancia de uno.
And we were actually higher in rates. What happened in 2019 since COVID, they had to drop them to zero. They had to stimulate the economy because we were going to go into a recession. So many people were out of work.
Yes.
So many people did not have any money. So many people could not make ends meet. So what they did is they gave everybody stimulus money to survive.
So they printed that money.
Yeah. So they said, you know how they have that meme of Jerome Powell going burr with the money printer? It's actually not him who does the money printing. He handles the monetary policy of the banks. But who does the money printing is the Treasury Secretary, which is the Treasury. And they are the ones that print the money. So they were the ones that were doing it. They printed all those stimulus checks that came to people's hands and the PPP loans.
I was going to say, like, Trump being the businessman that he is, and now he's, like, kind of blaming Biden, like, oh, this fucked up economy. Yeah. But he was the one that allowed, like, the first couple stimulus checks to kind of go out. He did, it's sort of like, wait, si eres tan chingón en el negocio, why would you think that that was such a good idea?
Yeah, I think it was not up to him. Basically, it became a vote for all of the Congress and everything. So everybody had to like put their opinion. And I don't know if he was pro, but he knew he had to be pro. Yeah. Because, I mean, giving money to people, it boosts your at least the way people see you.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, who doesn't like the person that's giving them money for free?
I mean, we hated Trump, but we got that stimmy and we were like, hi.
I remember people were getting those stimulus checks and were like, oh, I guess Daddy Trump is not that bad.
Yeah.
You know? And then Biden came and he gave more money. He was like, oh, I guess Daddy Biden is not bad either.
Ahí sí le dije Daddy Biden. Al otro no, le dije, I'll take your money gladly.
So the problem is both of them had to suffer through the whole bad decisions of giving money for free to everyone. And the problem is that the people that had a lot more were able to take advantage and have a lot more. Those PPP loans were given mostly to business owners and people in government and people in positions of power.
Yeah.
And it helped them a lot to the point that they could invest more into their businesses, invest more into their capital, into their investments. And the people that, were not so lucky with having so much income in our hands, we had to pay our bills.
Yeah.
We had to buy home food and figure out how to survive. Well, the rich, were investing that money. We were spending that money.
And I think as Latinos, we were so also financially illiterate. And I speak for myself porque I was financially okay. Like I was paying my bills. So this was just extra money coming in. And I could have easily been like, I could just invest this, and the stock market was low enough that I could have invested it in anything, and I would have probably doubled that money or tripled.
Basically, yeah.
And I didn't. I was like, nos vamos de fiesta,
I mean, me too. I'm not gonna lie. I went on a couple trips right after that.
No, sí, ahí sí yo tenía miedo. I only went once, and I was like, oh my god. I went to Guanajuato. I think it was 2021 or 2020, but I just needed to get out of the country.
Yeah, no, it was a very hard time. That's when I started living in with my now wife, back then girlfriend, And yeah, we had a. I thought COVID, in a way, was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Because I lived in the San Francisco area, so I live in Silicon Valley at the time. But by myself. Yeah, but I was living in my own apartment, paying around $2,300 in rent.
Wow.
On a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, just because it was in a.
And you guys were already together?
We were not at that. Well, we were talking. We were already together in like.
Historias de amor hay que escuchar.
Yeah, she had come to visit me. I had come to visit her in Long Beach. We were already thinking about maybe we should move in. She was actually thinking about moving to San Francisco.
Mírala.
To the San Jose.
Me lo agarro.
I mean, and I was like 100% willing too.
Yeah.
So it was like, let's do it. But because of COVID, I decided to go back home to live with my parents.
Because you could work from home.
Because I could work. That was, like I know many people suffered during that time.
Yes.
It was very horrible, dark times for a lot of people.
Yes.
In my personal case, it was not bad because I could work from home. I lived at my parents.
Which was did you guys have an apartment at the time?
Yeah, so basically I closed down my rent from San Francisco and I booked it back to Long Beach. And I went back to my parents and everything, and it was it actually that allowed me to save, to invest more, which actually led me to buy the home in 2021.
So let's go ahead and talk about that. And I do want to go back to Bidenomics because that's what we currently have, and then what to expect in the 2024 presidential. But the pandemic and not paying rent allowed you to start being more financially literate. How did you decide, I'm going to buy a house? Like, what were some key indicators for you?
One, I already had the cash to put in as a down payment. I don't recommend anybody buying a home if they don't have the cash to put as a down payment. So
what does that mean?
Oh, yeah. So
did you have the 600? Did you have the 800? Did you have the...
That is true. Yeah, no. At the moment, I got a conventional loan, but you could get. I could have qualified for a full First Homeowners Association loan. FHA. But I didn't want to do it because it was a higher interest. Conventional loans tend to have a lower interest, and they're a little bit cheaper when it comes to the private mortgage insurance.
So FHA is at 3.5. Conventional would be 5%. Okay.
Yeah. So
Jose Aprendido.
No, he's good. I'm telling you, he's been on it the past few years. I've seen him invest. It's insane.
Thank you. But which, by the way, it's all thanks to Morris Eddy, which I've also had on the podcast. And if anybody also wants to just start, getting their feet wet, we do have an Instagram group page that you guys can join completely free. Just let us know you guys want to join, and then Morris, more than anything, just updates us on what's going on in the stock market. So just keep that in mind. If you guys
Eddie's
want
there, you're there.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of heads you can ask questions about, and we always make these questions times when people want to put their question and they want to. I mean, like we say, we're not experts. We just give our opinion.
Yeah,
and it's all you decide where you want to take your money and put your money. At the end of the day, you have to be worried about your finances more than we are. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn those little nuggets here and there. But we provide you with at least the links to figure out, okay, this is what you should be able to do with this amount of cash. This is where we are investing. Not sure if that is something that you prefer. So we gonna give suggestions.
Yes. So you had enough to put 5% down on a house. What were you looking for in a house?
To me, it was important to be big enough because I was going to be moving in my parents.
Okay.
So my parents, I don't know if you know this, but I was undocumented.
Yeah.
Up to 2016.
Oh, I was going to say up until last week that you got married.
Oh, yeah. She got me the paper. She was like, baby, you want to get married on that? No. I actually met her before I even had papers. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how I knew she was the one, because she liked me even before I had money.
Oh,
she liked me. She saw me with my old ass. I mean, my bad.
No,
with my bad Camry. She saw me with my 1998 Camry, driving around. And then I was able to buy a car later on. But yeah, it was I met her when I had nothing.
Yeah.
So that's how I knew she was the one, because she saw me when I had nothing, and now she's with me when we have something.
Exactly. We have something, and in the future we'll have more.
We're building it together. What we do is we combine our finances.
Yeah.
So our savings are together.
I'm going to ask a personal question, because I always say, do you guys have a joint account together? All the money goes, or cada quien tiene sus cuentas?
Yeah, we have our separate accounts, but we all, this is money so I pay all the bills.
Okay.
And I pay all and I pay all the expenses of the household at every month. And then her money, we divide it into the 2 savings accounts. So I have mine, she has hers. We put it on.
So her money is the savings account. Your money is the expenses.
Mine is our expenses.
That's smart.
Yeah. So all her income, whatever she makes, just goes into investing, savings, bonds, and my income goes into all.
So you pay the credit cards.
I pay the credit card. Well, she pays sometimes when she.
I was gonna say,
not everything.
I see that American Express from time to time. Let it fly.
Not everything, but I do pay majority. But if she does make purchases on the credit cards, then she pays them on her own.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so she does. She doesn't leave me with the bill.
Okay.
She also, okay. If
I
she
was,
goes out with
I was gonna be like, damn, y'all don't want a trouble over here.
Yeah, we're always accepting applications.
No, that's awesome. I've always told sometimes my friends, and maybe like your guys' is the better way, or maybe cada pareja tiene su propio, like their own way, but maybe in my case, what I would want to do is like cada quien tenga su propia bank account, but then also money allocation. Like, hey, if I'm going to be putting $200 a week, you put $100 a week on a high yield savings account that it's both of ours, right? Yeah. But your guys' way works too. Yeah.
Plus, it helps because if anything happens, she has an emergency fund. I have an emergency fund.
Okay, gotcha.
And we can always pull on it together. But yeah, at the end of the day, she has her own retirement. Like, the good thing is, like, since she works for the government with a government entity, she has a pension, she has retirement, she has. So I don't have to provide her with any of that. She's a very smart cookie. I'm not gonna lie. So
I know you wouldn't be with her if you weren't.
Yeah, and then she's starting her own business too. So it's like she's out here. So in the end, I'll be the one, asking her, I'm your dad, I'm sugar baby, give me some money.
Yes, you're gonna be your sugar mommy.
So it helps. It helps to have that, like, agreement on where we're gonna put our money.
That $2,300 that you used to pay in the Bay Area for rent, now you were able to start saving $2,300 a month. I'm pretty sure le dabas a tus papás porque te estás quedando así. So I don't want to say it was like the $2,300. But how long after you moved back with your parents were you like, I think I'm ready to buy a home?
It was like a year.
Okay, so you did do a whole year.
Yeah, we did a whole year of savings. Actually, since I moved early 2019, for almost most of 2019, I was living with my parents, and then we decided to get an apartment together. But now it was 2 incomes. And it was cheaper in Long Beach than it was in the San Francisco, Silicon Valley area. So we were paying for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom around $1,900. She had her job, I had my job, so then we all split it. Since we were not married yet, we split it in a way of it was like, since I was making a lot more money, I paid most of it and she paid 1/3 of it.
Okay.
Of the rent. And then I paid all the utilities and everything.
Yes.
But I still was paying a lot less than I was paying in the Bay. So I kept saving, investing. I put as much money as I had free after expenses into the 401k, into my private investment, Robinhood investing account, brokerage accounts from TD Ameritrade. So I was doing all of that. And then 2021 came.
So that was already 2 years of saving around
that. Was 2 years of savings and investing that I was going hardcore.
Oh my God. And with 0% interest.
It's 0% interest.
Like casi on these houses.
Yeah, no, at that time, my interest rate right now is 3%. On my mortgage is
banks
way little.
Hate you.
Yeah,
they're losing money.
They're losing money on me, and the way the appreciation happened in 2021, like now the home is worth almost $300,000 more than what I paid for it. So it's at this point it made me more money than investing, and that's the way that I saw it. If an investing I make maybe 10% on a yearly basis, and that's a great year. You're making 10% on your investings in the stock market at 10%. You are killing it.
Yeah.
But I knew that if I bought the home, not only I was going to get the appreciation of the land and the home, but I could move in my parents, and I could move in my brother. My brother was in it too, looking for a place as well, and myself. So when I saw a home that was big enough and it was cheap enough in Long Beach, like 5 minutes from the beach, I was like, you know what? It might not be the best area because it's not in the best area.
It's a really nice house, everybody.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe, I don't know. I saw it after it was renovated, but it's really nice.
It was after renovations, for sure. Yeah, because when we saw the home, it was a wreck.
But you saw
little
potential.
by little, we saw the potential. So we saw a home that was not the best looking in the neighborhood.
That's what I need. I'm just super eye-catchy.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, ay, está bonito, pero mira el precio. Y después digo, le echo el feo a uno que está bien madreado.
True, yeah, you le das el ojo
and I'm just like, maybe I should go with that one. I can afford that one.
Yeah. So we saw it, and since it was big enough for all of us, I moved in my parents, I moved in my brother, and my now wife, and we're all there together. So what happens now, and this is what I recommend everybody who's trying to buy a home and your parents don't have a home yet, moving your parents or moving a family member, because what happens now, I pay half of the mortgage, my parents pay the other half of the mortgage,
you're still eligible
with my
to
brother,
save.
And then I'm still saving with my wife, and I'm paying still about the same as when I was renting.
Yeah.
And my parents the same. They were paying the same as when they were renting. So basically, we just moved from renting two different
to owning
one together.
Did you have to take off all your investments?
No, I just took around, I think half of all my investments was the down payment, which was around, because since it was 5% on an over $700,000 home here in Long Beach, it became to like 50 with closing costs plus all that stuff included.
Okay,
like 52,
so
53.
Okay, not bad. And then mortgage was probably like what? Like
mortgage is around $4,000 right now.
Wow. Okay, pero your mom works, your dad works.
Everybody in the household works, so
it's like
it pays
$800 a person or so. Well, around there. You were talking about your 401k. I did not know you could take money away from your 401k if I wanted to buy a house. No es que tenga mucho. Tengo like 14, 15K.
That's good enough. That's good enough.
But like what I have in savings, like now I know, hey, I could take that money. But will I get charged the 10% fee, the 22% fee?
No 22% fee as long as it's a loan. So you're loaning it. So you're basically the company that holds your 401k, which is Fidelity in my case. They allow you to take, especially if you're buying a home. There's an actual loan that says that if you're buying your first time home,
FHA, bitches.
Yeah, if you're buying your first time home as a first time homeowner and you want to take that money out of your 401k, you can do it at a very low interest rate. I don't know what the interest is right now, but the loan that I got when I did it was 3% loan.
Wait, so so they loan you the money at a low interest rate,
but you're paying the interest on your own money. So the interest goes back into your account as an interest. But it's your funding inside your own 401k.
So it's technically like getting two loans. So the bank gave you a loan, and then you got a loan. Well, you'd get a loan for a 1K, so you'd be paying two different bills. Yeah. Obviously, this one's a lower, well, maybe way a lower interest rate, but at the end of the day, you're getting it's your own money.
Yeah, it's your money. So you yourself are your own bank, and you pay your own interest on your own money.
Well, now I understand why people have like a bunch of money in their 401k and just get loans off their 401k. Or motherfucking white.
Yeah, then they have the whole life insurance, which is the same thing. It's
life
another
insurance.
Retirement. The cash value, depending on which one you have, but the cash value in your whole life insurance is like a bank as well. You can borrow against it at an interest rate that you pay yourself on it. So you're paying, let's say, 4 or 5% on your own money every time you pay, but it's going back to your own investment.
But that's another thing that we kind of tying it all back into like, how do I save money? Well, you're automatically saving if you're investing into a 401k, which for the most part, if you're a full-time employee, you're already like stuff is already coming out of your paycheck.
They're already taking it out as a tax.
Yeah.
So by doing it on a 401k, and this is why it's important to have these retirement tax advantage accounts, is because you lower the amount of cash you're getting taxed on, especially if it's a Roth 401k, because you're paying it at the end once you cash out everything.
Me perdiste, dilo otra vez.
So every year, every single time you get paid, right, from your job, they take a little amount. But let's say the total amount that you make a year is let's say you make 100,000.
Okay.
You make 100,000 in the year. But if you put 4,000 or 5,000 in your 401k, then that gets deducted from your total. So now they only tax you on 96,000.
Even if your work 401k?
Yeah, in your work 401k.
And what if I do a Roth?
The same.
It
lowers your liability.
HSA?
HSA is same. It's health savings account. And
I have
the
all
whole
three,
life account. Yeah. So that lowers your tax liability.
Qué bueno.
Because they're retirement account. You're not supposed to use them or at least cash out until you're 65. But you can borrow or use them for certain purposes, like for an HSA, health savings account. You go to the dentist, You pay with that, and that is a tax advantage.
Yeah,
you don't pay taxes on those.
And there's a 5-year statute of limitation that you can use that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take a quick little break once again, and when we come back, we're gonna finish this podcast episode and talk about Bidenomics, talk about 2024 housing, and
it's gonna be intense.
Yeah, we'll be right back. All right, we are back, and let's go ahead and talk about what can we expect housing for 2024, because so many people in my generation want to buy a house, and by my generation, I mean me.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to benefit a lot for what's going to happen in 2024. So at the moment, we are living in a very high interest environment. So interest rates on FHA, conventional loans are hovering around the 6.5 interest rates. That's making most of the people that could buy a home, say that they can't because they cannot afford the payment of the private mortgage insurance if they don't get a 20% down payment. Because if you don't give a 20% down payment on the home, you have to pay an extra mortgage insurance, which is not to you, it's to the bank.
Yeah.
For loaning you a money that makes it kind of risky. But if you pay 20%, they waive that out. But right now, I think for the same home, and I was doing the math, for the same home that I bought, that currently I'm paying $4,000. If I would buy it with today's interest rates, I'll be paying over $6,000. So $2,000 on top every month just because of interest. So people are seeing all of this, and they're saying, "Why am I gonna buy a home right now?"
Exactly. And so many people say "Hey, it's better to be in the market or have a home than not have a home." But then you're also "But do I really want to pay?" I don't know when interest rates are going to come down. Do I really want to pay $6,000, let's say, every month on hey, they could come down tomorrow or next year, uno nunca sabe.
Yeah, no, it's a game that, not many people are able to play right now, at least when it comes to real estate investing. But, as long, and this is the good thing about what's going on right now, as long as interest remains high, interest rates for home mortgages and everything else remains kind of high, that is allowing prices of homes and a lot of the things to start coming down. They're not coming down as fast as we would like, which is not a bad thing. I think currently prices overall have still been going up in as a national level. But certain cities are already seeing the brunt of what could be an upcoming recession. Especially cities like Phoenix, cities like Austin, cities like Oakland. They're seeing the values of the homes starting to fall. And mostly that is because there's not a lot of buyers.
Yeah.
So buyers are exiting the market, wanting to buy a home at the moment, and then deciding to wait if interest rates start coming down. So the problem with that is, at least whoever is a seller of a home has to lower the prices in order to incentivize people to kind of want to be buying the home. But they're not going fast enough. So what we want to, as a person that wants to buy a home, what you want to do is wait for the moment, at least when you start seeing interest rates and yields kind of plateau, when they're not going lower anymore, and then you see them take a straight line and they're pausing the low.
The death line at a hospital.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's the perfect idea. You see that heart rate going down and then flat lines.
Beep.
At that moment, that would be the perfect time to start buying a home, and that's when most likely you start seeing inventory of home sellers just start lowering because more people are going to be going to buy a home. So that would be the perfect time. Actually, it might even not be a bad time to start looking now if you're interested in buying later in 2024. I'm talking about mid to late, because I would still believe that interest rates are going to be high all of early 2024 up until maybe May, June,
okay,
somewhere around there. And that is because that's what the Federal Reserve has said. I mean, many people are trying to get ahead of the Fed and say, they're going to bring down interest rates maybe even next month. And I doubt it. I highly doubt interest rates are going to come down as fast as people are projecting it to be.
Yeah, because then it's going to be a mess all over.
It's going to be the whole thing again with inflation and just exorbitant amount of buying, and home prices are going to skyrocket. And who's going to be able to afford a home that in 2021 was $700,000 and now in 2024 it's $1 million?
Yeah.
It's going to be impossible for anyone to afford it.
There's two scenarios that can happen late 2024 during presidential elections. Yeah. We stay with Biden, or unfortunately, the only candidate for Republicans is Trump right now.
It's starting to look like that.
Yeah, from what it looks like. What can we... How do you see Biden? What do you think he's done? ¿Cómo lo has visto estos últimos años?
I mean, he hasn't been horrible. I know people paint him out to be as like one of the worst presidents, but let's remember that he also inherited maybe the worst pandemic in the modern era.
Okay.
And he, did do not the best decisions early on in his presidency, giving out a lot of more free money and keeping everything closed because...
And not promising student loan forgiveness.
Yes. And that's another thing, he kind of like, I don't know if you've seen that meme of Michael Scott promising the kids from the office, like the loans for their school.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened to us. He pulled the Michael Scott on us, from the office. So... yeah, no, it is not the best look.
Yes.
And that is going to hurt him in the future elections. And people are starting to get fed up because they're noticing that the country, at least from what we see, what the decisions they're making and everything, is not heading into the best interest of Americans.
Okay.
We've been noticing that the debt of the United States has never been this high in the history. Of all the countries, even of all the common era, we've never seen this much interest debt on the United States.
And we keep sending to Ukraine.
And we keep sending package of aid to a lot of countries, but we are not focusing here at home.
Yeah.
So if you notice, there's many, they're already saying that Social Security is going to get cut by 2050.
So no nos va a tocar.
Yes. So it's most likely going to run out of money even before then. So there's going to have to be changes, and people are going to start looking at alternatives. Because if they feel that they're in a worse situation now than they were in 2019 when Trump was there, and out of desperation, they're going to look for the other alternative. Yeah. And that's what people are saying. A lot of people are not happy with what he has done. A lot of people are not in a better situation today than they were 4 years ago prior to the elections. So they're going to look for a change. And that's the possibility that gives, Trump the ability to have a higher vote count than Biden. But still, no one knows what's going to happen 6 months from now. Something can happen that is even worse or helps Biden that allows him to win the election.
Do you think Trump would do a better job the second time around?
I don't know, because that's the thing, it's at the end of the day, I don't think the president can do so much to steer the country in a different, completely direction. At the end of the day, a lot of politicians will do what the banks, what institutions, what finance firms tell them to do, because at the end of the day, they follow the money.
Yeah.
If you look at what is being decided on right now, is like they want to move into a world where it becomes a little bit easier to use technology instead of human labor. So AI, robotics, autonomous cars, because that will lower our carbon footprint. And they're making a lot of decisions that may not actually be in the best interest of Americans. So not sure what's going to happen. At the end of the day, it's basically follow the money,
Yeah.
You follow the money, you see who's actually making those decisions, like BlackRock.
I was going to say BlackRock.
Vanguard.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they are the ones that are putting those politicians in place. They are the ones that are, steering the conversation of where would our money go and where should we spend our tax dollars.
Let's talk about BlackRock a little bit, because it's a company that's buying out houses, buying out properties, and like keeping them, kind of monopolizing.
True.
And being their own house dealership.
They are.
Because now they get to set the prices, the rates at what they sell, right?
Yeah, no, and it's the problem with that is, we have, at least in the past, it was individual investors that wanted to buy a home and rent it out for making that extra cash flow, or creating their own little nest egg so that when they get older, they have multiple properties that they can make money from, retire, and then pass it down to their family members. That was the idea for most of housing. But lately, in the last 10 to 20 years, we've noticed that investing firms have taken a very big interest in single-family homes. And not only just that, but they've been buying up bulks of family homes, not just like a small amount of communities here and there. No, they're buying whole cities. Like you can tell that in many cities, a lot of the areas, a lot of the communities that are being built right now, a lot of the investors that are putting that money to buy those homes are companies like BlackRock, LLCs, Blackstone, Vanguard, and what they want to do, because they've noticed that the stock has a lot of risk, but buying a home and having it appreciate over time while you're renting it to people is the safest form of investment. Like that's what made the middle class that we have today. That's what made the 70s and 80s and 90s the middle class such a strong middle class that no one in the history of all the world has ever seen, where we had people that were not rich but people that were not poor, and they could basically live and attribute to the economy the way that they have. So single family homes are the easiest venue of making and becoming wealthy. And a lot of these firms are buying up and taking over those homes. And that's what happened in 2021. They were outbidding a lot of the new home buyers, or a lot of existing lower home buyers that did not have enough cash or not money to give out the cash up front. So a lot of these investment firms were buying up homes and bidding out people. And that's why we saw the skyrocketing in home prices the way that we did.
Because now they set their own prices at the next seller. They renovate houses, or they even, how do I say, they gentrify a whole community. We saw, I mean, I don't want to say it with like the SoFi Stadium here, but like Inglewood was not the best neighborhood to live around. And I lived in Hawthorne, I lived in Inglewood, but now with the whole SoFi Stadium, SoFi like literally increased the rent of everybody that was there, that was living there for years. So it's scary.
That led to, and not only that, but having a stadium next to your home increases your home value exponentially. But what happens when you increase in the value of the home? You have to pay higher taxes on it. So people were seeing that they were paying maybe $1,000 before the stadium in taxes. Not maybe $1,000, maybe less than maybe $10,000. That's most likely the price. On a home that was worth maybe $400,000 in the area before the stadium. Then the stadium came, then came commerce, businesses, and all that stuff started buying up the land. It increased the land value. And now those homes that were maybe $400,000 prior to the stadium now are $700,000 in value. And that increased your tax liability on that home by $7,000, $8,000, $9,000.
Yeah.
So people they basically saw their taxes obligations on that home and that land doubled. And they couldn't pay those anymore. I mean, let's remember that a lot of those people were lower income communities and people that did not have $10,000 a year, or maybe even more than that, to pay in taxes. And not only that, but rents have gone up too. So
to wrap things up, what would be your 2024 financial tidbits?
Tidbits, I would say, like I've said before, investing bonds at the moment right now, they're still pretty low. We might see a pullback on the prices. But as long as rates keep coming down, and they've been going down right now, they're going to go up in value. And bonds have never been this low in the last 20 years. So you're buying them at the best price that you've ever seen them in the last 20 years, and most likely it'll keep going up. So bonds is one thing. Another thing is start saving for that home. Get ready to put the down payment whenever you see rates start coming down again. And that way you can at least secure a home before prices start going up, because the moment rates are back to zero, and they've been zero for a while, you'll see all these big investing firms again coming in and buying up all the single family homes for sale. And the last thing is open either a IRA or Roth 401k or a whole life savings account or HSA, because those are tax advantage accounts. You can save on taxes by investing in your retirement. And it also you can use them as your own bank by borrowing money from yourself. So those are the three things that I would say you got to do.
That is awesome. And one thing and tradition that I have here on the podcast is the last person who I interviewed gets to ask the next question to the next guest, and you get to ask the next guest the next question.
Let's do it.
So, ¿qué esperas hacer para que siga avanzando tu proyecto? What do you... what do you hope to do to keep advancing the current project that you're working on?
Yeah, so I would say ahorita estamos trabajando con my wifey en comenzar un negocio de no sé si ustedes han visto, pero la renta de las paredes de flores. O corazones llenos de flores para eventos especiales como you want to propose to your girlfriend o quieres decirle a tu girl que está saliendo que quieras ser su girlfriend. O que quieras una celebración de cumpleaños o una boda. Entonces ahorita estamos haciendo eso. Y ahorita lo que nos falta, yo creo que es un plan. Damos un business plan de cómo hacer el marketing, de cómo abrir the LLC, because we need to open an LLC for it, y cómo invertir en los productos que necesitamos para comenzar el negocio. So ahorita yo creo que necesitamos un plan. Es lo que nos falta. Yo creo que siempre para cualquier cosa tienes que tener un plan. Un plan para comprar una casa, un plan para invertir, un plan para comenzar un negocio. Y eso es lo que necesitamos ahorita.
What question would you have for our next guest?
Our next guest.
You don't know who it is, but it's just a question.
Should we make it fun?
It could be fun. It could be fun. It could be serious. It could be dark. It could be silly. It could be stupid.
All right. Let's see. Cuando te enamoraste por primera vez, ¿fue una buena experiencia o fue mala experiencia?
When you fell in love for the first time, was it a good or a bad experience? Morris, when can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram as Morris Galvez FP. So my name, my last name, and then just at the FP. Or you can also see me on TikTok. We have a page called Tell Me Chisme. So @TELLME Chisme, así como lo escuchan. Y está en TikTok y en Instagram. Y eso es donde estamos haciendo un chisme page.
Oh, y ahí llegamos a los chisme.
How
many followers do you have already on there?
80,000 por ahí. llegando a los 80,000. Como 70 y algo.
¿Ya cuánto has ganado ahí? How much money have you made on it?
A couple, I would say like close to 400 to 500. Yeah.
Damn.
It's not a lot.
It's something.
TikTok gives you a little bit of money, but
I've made $18 on TikTok.
No, that's not bad.
Actually, I made
bro.
more. I made $50 because 30 was on views and $18 was on going live.
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, yeah.
You should go live. You should go live more often and be like,
exactly. Poco a poquito. Oye, but Morris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I have so much fun whenever we get together and talk about this stuff. So to me, it's like it's a great time all the time.
Yeah, awesome, you guys. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever you guys are listening or watching your favorite podcast. Until next time, aquí en Echale Podcast.